Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Cooey,
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
and we hope that you continue to enjoy our show. We've seen some signs that we're having impact into our community.
I hope so.
And that's exciting. Deborah has been working very hard to build our base in the Navarre area.
Yes. I spend a little more time than I used to down there.
And so we, the audience continues to grow. We've been at this over 2 years. If you don't do anything but sit on the couch and make fun of me, at least you're watching our show. Hopefully we.
I think there's probably plenty of that.
Hopefully we throw a few things out there, and certainly anything that you have that you feel needs to be looked into, drop us an email. We'll be more than happy to take it on. Now, I want to take a moment. I've been working on my little retirement project, working my land, and enjoying that. And folks, I don't know if you can see it today. It doesn't look quite so bad, but just food for thought when you're riding your tractor and you're going through kind of deep wooded areas. Beware of those 1.5-inch limbs that come by and hit you right in the face and almost knock you off the tractor, and you have to stop for a moment to regain consciousness there.
We don't want to have that discussion today because I actually put my forest into my backyard, and now the person who cuts around it and is not supposed to go into it with a lawnmower is complaining because the limbs are hitting him in the face, and he's threatening my trees out there.
Do you? With your the economic development that's going on in your backyard, are you concerned that there may be legal action by this person?
Well, no, I'm related to him, so I'm not too worried about that. What I'm concerned about is I'm not home when he goes out and he does something to the trees, and then I'm really gonna get mad.
Well, I don't want to name any names, but Best Boy, I got a nice small chainsaw, and we can come over here and get rid of some of those lower limbs. We don't want to hurt the tree overall.
I'm adding oxygen to the atmosphere.
We don't want it. I am all for, but it's about the proper manicuring of trees.
But these are river birches, and that's how they look. They have long flowing.
I understand
branches.
that. Well, you never can tell. This person that you're somewhat related to. May take you outside and see if the lawnmower handle will fit your hands.
Yeah. I'd be happy to do it. But see, I won't cut as much as he will. That's his problem.
So, folks, as we're talking about open land and trees and such, there's been some discussion recently on the routing of Highway 87.
Yes.
And how we're going to accomplish that.
Well, they want to build a bypass. This has been in the works for quite some time. And now we've got these different options. We've had the public input sessions, quote unquote, and we've got these different options on the table. There's always been an option to run it through, I think they call it the southern option, to run it right through Milton. Widen the road and then run part of it through.
Of course, that gets thrown out immediately because of historic buildings. Then south of Milton, which would be use the old Baghdad Highway and cross over the marsh area there, and then come up and around. And apparently recently that one has been officially shot down.
Correct.
That the southern bypass around Milton's not going to occur.
Yeah, neither one of them that's not going to fly at all.
Right.
And that's, people disagree as to whether the stuff should, you'd have, I think you'd have traffic routed one way through the town, and then you'd have it routed the other way in a different direction. And then I think would have to build a new bridge and so on and so forth.
Well, look, and I say this, Milton is my hometown. And one of the problems that we have right now is because of the traffic of those from East Milton and even as far as Crestview, the daily business traffic every day of people getting to and from work, crossing each other every day, the traffic has become a problem.
Well, it's especially bad. You have that little bridge as a bottleneck from East Milton into Milton. It's terrible.
Right. So So, but the southern bypass is kind of off the table now. So go ahead and tell the folks the different ones.
Well, so now the other options are to go just sort of north of that between Whitingfield and Milton. Just go through that swath in there,
Right.
and then hook up to the 87 that goes north.
Back
and
to
then
87, right?
And then the other option is to go up straight up from the sheriff's department, and then go all the way north to Whitingfield.
Go north, go
and hook into Whitingfield, basically.
bypass over the northern side of
Right, yeah.
Whitingfield.
Yeah.
And you know, and of course these things are, you know, they take a long time.
Yeah.
You know, my personal choice is now off the table. I've tried. I've given input and tried to support and all. I felt like the southern bypass would pull a little more industrial traffic off of Highway 90, so downtown city of Milton could develop more in a more of a walk friendly thing. So, but that one's off the table. So it looks like now where we're heading is come off of Highway 90. Cut through, go south of Whitingfield, or go around and go north of Whitingfield.
And of course, there's also a dream to hook around the other side of Whitingfield. This was part of the, what was it, $1 billion roads dream.
Yeah,
package
that
we
would
had
have been
a couple years ago.
Don Salter's $1 billion road plan.
Yeah, right. But one of the elements of that was to build a quote unquote beltway through Pace.
Right.
That would be a toll road probably.
Right.
And so I guess if we take this Whiting route up the east side of Whiting, I guess that will eventually that would hook around into it.
I'm trying to think back, Deborah. How did that boondoggle of a sales tax work out?
Yeah, they wanted the 1 penny. That was the Better Roads Now
Right.
campaign. We called it. They wanted the 1 penny sales tax.
You mean the campaign where our tax dollars was authorized by the county administrator
Yes.
in support of a ballot measure?
Yes. Which was not illegal then, but it is now.
Right. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah,
occur.
that needed to happen.
But absolutely. So
They were overwhelmingly voted against. Nobody wants a 1 cent sales
we
tax.
we will keep you posted on that, and actually how that works out is it is a little bit of regional importance, because our friends coming from Navarre, our friends from the north end, friends from Crestview, and those in Milton, you know, that it will affect a lot of people.
Well, and hurricane evacuation route as well.
Right. Well, I have a solution on hurricane evacuation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take a bulldozer and you rake everything that's on the beach off right now, and then you don't have to worry about hurricane evacuation.
It would cut down considerably.
Well, don't get me off on a tangent, but I don't care that you live on the beach. I wish you the best of luck. You're on your own. And when a hurricane washes your road out, get in line. There's 170 people in my subdivision. I think our road should be fixed first before a road that has 10 people on it.
Yeah.
You know, that we'll beat that horse on another day. Now, another thing is big in the news, folks. You'd have to be living under a rock not to witness what is going on in Wisconsin with the labor union, the government, the unions, and all of this kind of stuff. So it's kind of made it to the state of Florida now.
Yeah.
You know, and there's very strong
And Florida's already, the issue in Wisconsin is they're trying to,
collective bargaining.
they're trying to get rid of collective bargaining for public employees.
Right.
Florida's already a right to work state, so that's
Right.
not quite the issue here that it is in Wisconsin. But, you know, I'm going to be the first to tell you that most unions are grossly corrupt, and they take money, and just like the government, county commission does, they hand it under the table to their buddies. I mean, I'm the first one to say that. But here's the problem, is if you don't have the unions out there, corrupt or not, as a counterweight to the corruption of the corporate side, then it's the people who work for a living, the middle class, who are going to get screwed.
Well,
It's a necessary evil.
and folks, that's her take. Now I'll give you my take. In the early days of our country, there was a need for labor unions. There was a need for labor unions for employee safety, for work weeks, to a certain degree wages. Standards were set. The thing that I see in today's society, though, is, and let's look at kind of the South in general. We don't have a lot of labor unions. We do.
We don't have the industrial history. That's why.
Well, the teachers, certainly some of them, or more than a few of them, are involved in a teachers union.
Right.
But we don't have the
organized labor.
The organized labor down here, and I agree.
Part of that is because the South, for a long time, had a source of labor that did not have the opportunity to organize at all.
Well,
because they were owned by other people.
And I understand what you're saying, but things when people on work weeks and how many hours a day and child labor and all,
right.
all of that's pretty much been taken care of. It's a matter of law and a lot of those things.
No, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Come on, it's taken care of. You get rid of the watchdogs, you get rid of the advocacy, it goes away tomorrow. It will go away. Well, let's bend the law a little bit. And it doesn't apply to, someone who works 39 and a half hours a week. And I mean, it'll be gone in 2 weeks if the advocacy goes away.
Well,
I can assure you.
The problem that I have is, and then I will allude to, they're still looking for Jimmy Hoffa. So. Well,
yeah, but I mean that's one little chapter.
There's a lot of little chapters. This guy that's the head of the AFL-CIO today.
Right.
I watched news reports on TV where he was in the front lines, being involved in some things that were iffy at best.
I'm not arguing. You're always going to have that, but the problem is if that goes away entirely, you have no advocacy for people who work for a living. And I'll also go a step further because we're talking about public employee unions. And I'm the first to admit, I think anytime you have public employees whose median or whose average wage is already considerably higher than on the private sector, you have a problem right there.
Right.
So, I mean, you're dealing with a little resentment on that side of it as well. But if you completely get rid of collective bargaining, which is what these people would like to do, people who work for a living are just going to be out there dangling with no support whatsoever, and they will get screwed.
Okay. Well, let's focus in on the issue in Florida. How do you see it? It appears to me that just and look, this bouncing ball is bouncing daily. It appears that Governor Rick Scott, along with at least a fair number of legislators, if not a good many of them, have suggested that the public employees that are covered with a union should start paying into their own retirement.
Right.
5%.
Which I have no problem. I actually was surprised to find that I didn't know they weren't paying into their own retirement. That's,
right.
The federal service you pay. You have to pay. I mean, everybody has to pay into their. So I was surprised. I have no problem with that. I agree with that.
And then they're also going to be asked, and I think I'm right on the number, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10% of their health care costs, which they haven't been covering.
I agree with that too.
It is also in there. And, I
just want to interject this. USA Today just published a report where they listed all the states, and then they listed which states and by how much average public salaries either were higher or lower than average private sector salaries. And Florida was one of, I think it's 18 states who the public side is actually the salaries are higher than they are on the private side. And it was by a matter of several $1,000s. And that's a problem. That is a concern because when you have public jobs that are that lucrative, you get mass corruption. It becomes like the third world. In the third world, the only jobs are with the government. and literally, they sell them. It's patronage.
Right.
They sell their services to people. If you want electricity in your house in third world countries, you have to bribe everybody up the chain just to get the electricity out to your house.
Well, and back to what you were saying, and I have a tendency to agree also. Asking for a person to partially fund their own retirement, I
Yeah.
don't think is responsible, and to partially fund their health care. Now, let me qualify that by saying I'm a person who's worked in the private sector for 30 years now. I can put in a little, I have to put in a certain amount for a company match on retirement. Okay? The one that concerns me the most that's eating me out of house and home, though, is my health care.
Yeah, that's horrendous.
As a person who me working in the private sector, in order for me to get into the game, just to get in the game, it's $5,500 a year.
Yes.
Out of my pocket.
And that's very low end.
Okay, I'm not finished. $5,500 a year just to get in the game. My deductible is now, for my entire family, is $1,800 on top of that. So 55 plus 18 to get in the game. And then I start getting some relief at 80-20. I start getting a little protection at that point. I am at a point right now with my health care, be very blunt with you. The sinus infection, the broke finger, the stub toe, and all of that, I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
The only reason I have health insurance is for catastrophic.
Exactly.
The $250,000 episode at the emergency room. You know,
it's not worth it to go for a normal stuff.
It is going to help me in catastrophic.
That's it. Yeah.
Major dollars. Hopefully I will not become bankrupt after 30 years with the insurance I have.
But you are still, for your premium outrageous costs, subsidizing the trips by the indigent to the emergency
Absolutely.
room, where they're not going to pay anything. The solution, of course, is single payer Medicare for all. Tax the rich more and have the rich pay for it.
Well, I have watched this very carefully, participated, and I've watched it, the changes. For example, when HMOs, when we first started hearing about HMOs, well, the HMOs came in, and look, I actively got out there and I worked to make sure, that I could get one at my company. Mm-hmm. Right? At that time, I was paying $150, well, closer to $200 a month, just in premiums, and my policy was about a 60-40 at best, and I had a pretty big deductible at that time. The HMOs rolled in, and I had a couple years where I didn't have any monthly outgo, and I had a very small, because what they did was cost contain. They looked at every bill that they were able to trim, and the interesting thing was the HMOs, they had one person, and not a real big building. Right. But then the HMOs grew, and there was more management people and more management people. So the savings that I saw in the first couple years of when HMOs hit slowly went away, because the infrastructure of people other than the doctor who came to see me grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
So all those costs saved. So now I have the medical industry, and then I had the HMO that came in and cost contained, and things were looking pretty good there, but then they grew and became, and their footprint got bigger and bigger and bigger, and well, you can't get rid of us. We're so entwined in billing and all of that. All of those savings were lost, and it's been one of the highest inflation items over the longest period of time of anything out there.
Yeah, people are just glomming onto it.
And when you look at the state of Florida with the number of state employees that we have, the numbers are going to get frighteningly large.
It's never, the only solution is everyone's on Medicare, and then the government, and Medicare's got 1% overhead, as opposed to 20% overhead with I'm not talking about the hospitals and the doctors, I'm talking about the insurance industry, 20% overhead. Then the government is negotiating for the drug costs, which Obama let Big Pharma get away with not having to negotiate on. The government's negotiating for the hospital costs and all that other stuff.
Well,
and the containment
you know,
it's gonna costs are gonna shrink immediately.
And I'm glad you brought up the pill cost. I had a friend of mine, actually close friend. He had a little situation, and he needed the doctor prescribed to him 12 pills. You can take 2 of these a day for 6 days, and you should be good. He went down to the pharmacy to get that prescription filled. It was $135 for the 12 pills. So he called the mail order drug company, and he said, can you do this for me? He said, well, if your doctor will change the number on it, we'll be happy to send you 90 for $15.
Yeah.
Now what,
Yeah.
you know, and of course the doctor wouldn't sign off on 90 because it was a pain pill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we got some real problems there too on just the pill side of it. You know, that just it seems like we should be able to get straight.
Well, and of course, what the Obamacare bill did was it squished all the costs of all those problems onto the few middle class that can still afford, just
Right.
barely afford an insurance premium. Now they're going up. We're paying more. We're paying more copay.
Oh yeah, my premium immediately went up.
And copay and deductible.
Yeah, I went from about $300 a month to $348
Yeah, it's
a month.
ridiculous.
You know, I had a $50 a month jump.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is kind of an evolving thing. Obviously, there's going to be a big fight in the state of Florida. You know, of course, I guess the teachers' unions is the big one that's leading the fight in this one, and we'll keep you posted to see how it works out. We have another issue that I want to talk about, and you've heard us talk about the Maritime Park lawsuit, CMPA versus Kiesler and Boyd, at which we had an appellate court judge named of Charles Kahn, along with one of his partners, Weatherall, another member. They actually ruled that at a public meeting, the citizens do not have the right to speak at a public meeting.
Right.
Now, I tell you this to tell you the rest of the story. I had learned some things about this individual, Mr. Kahn. And recently in the news media, it was put forth that Mr. Kahn no longer wanted to be an appellate court judge. He wanted to become a federal magistrate. And so I looked at some of his background. I dug a little bit deeper, and here's what I found, folks. And to be quite honest with you, this is mine and Deborah's TV show, and I'm going to express my constitutionally protected First Amendment right of free speech. Charles Kahn has been documented, folks, as having a horrible temper, and court employees were afraid of him. It has been documented that he was having illicit relations with subordinate employees, well documented. His entire peer group came together of judges and removed him as the chief judge. And the story goes on and on and on. I mean, there's even pictures of his hotel visits with the girlfriend, and he is married, with his girlfriend were posted on computers that the taxpayers paid for.
Right.
Now, this is the kind of person we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. So now we find out that he's decided he wants to be a federal magistrate. And look, I didn't even know where to start looking on that kind of stuff. You know, how does that work? The Pensacola News Journal, and like I said in the previous show, sometimes I disagree with the Pensacola News Journal. Sometimes I agree with the Pensacola News Journal. They took a solid stand against Judge Kahn getting a promotion. They kind of said basically what I've said, that they're wondering why he's still a judge. But it's a process that's, I don't know, it's like it's veiled in secrecy. Well, the Pensacola News Journal, and look, to the editorial board of Pensacola News Journal, I appreciate you digging into it a little bit. what we found is, or what they found, and was happy to share with us, was that there were 64 candidates for this magistrate position. And a group of citizens were brought together in a room. Apparently there was 8 of them. And they had deliberations to bring the number from 64 down to just 8.
Yeah.
And the Pensacola News Journal is reporting that Channel 3, WERA TV 3, Sue Strawn, was one of the members on this panel. Now, I'm going to say I don't know if Mrs. Strawn was for Charles Conn or against Charles Conn.
Right.
I don't know. The public wasn't invited to be there.
Right.
So I don't know which way she went. But what I am going to say, and I know Deborah's got a couple burning comments to make over this. He should not be a judge, period, to start out with. I am shocked that he made it through this process.
Yeah, character matters with that job.
Character should matter, okay? And folks, I'll take it a step further, and you're talking to 2 people that have many scars on them about public records and public meetings and all that kind of thing. I find it very odd that we have a top secret meeting with apparently you have to have a special handshake to get into the room, and we discuss these matters, and I don't see how a man of this character gets through the screening process. I'm shocked. I'm also shocked that Sue Strawn, who's been a trusted member of the area for many, many years, and I'll certainly credit her with many good works and many great things that she has done. I'm just going to have to say I believe Sue Strawn let us down on this one. As a member of the media, to not put out in the media the character of this person.
I can't imagine that a member of the media sits on any panel that makes any kind of government decision. That's just amazing to me. And that the station manager allows it to happen.
Right.
I mean, there's a serious credibility issue.
Well, you're supposed to report the news, not be part of the news.
Exactly.
And
that's really hard to believe. I mean, if you want to rub shoulders with the government, if you enjoy being around judges and hanging out with them, quit your journalism job.
Exactly.
And get a government job.
Exactly.
You know.
I along with Deborah, I'm very disappointed that character doesn't matter in federal judicial appointments. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for watching. Good night.